Arrow.net. That's where you go when you want all of the conversations. Arrow.net. ARROE.net. All right, let's do it. Let's play it forward. These are real people, real stories, the struggle to play it forward. Episode number 520 is with Philip Winters of Tyrant. Where's the tour bus got you today?
We're at home. Well, I'm at home. The other guys are most likely working right now.
Well, you're at home. That means you're working too. I bet you got some things to do.
Yeah, I'm actually putting together some cassette artwork that we're going to hopefully order this week. Some cassette copies, some super limited edition cassette copies of the new album.
That's so funny that you say that, because I was with the people on NBC's The Voice today, and we talked a lot about cassettes. And then so to hear you continue that conversation, I mean, I got to be honest with you, the younger generation says, yeah, I want some of that action.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange because I remember, when I was really young and I would listen to my dad's cassette collection, and then I saw the progression between, like when I was a kid really getting into music, CDs were the big thing, yep. But my dad is being older, still had some of his old cassettes. And I remember watching CDs turn into, pirating music on like LimeWire, and then, iTunes, and then it went to streaming, and now it's vinyl, and it's been vinyl for the past 8 years. And now it's cassettes. Like they just sprung up out of nowhere in the past year or two.
Yeah, because I have so many cassettes, and what I did was I bought a digital device that helps me transfer it all over into into the digital world and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it says, but you're right though, and the quality. There was always a quality about that cassette. As long as you kept it out of the sunshine, that cassette would last forever.
Yeah, I mean, with the technology today, they have like, I think it's like ferro metal tape or whatever, which prevents degradation, so they can stay really nice for a long time.
Boy, that the poor dashboard of a car, man. I mean, oh my God, we got to get a cassette deck now.
Yeah.
Putting this collection of music together, the lowest level. What is it that you learned from it? Because every time you go into the studio, it's a new exploration.
So one of the big takeaways for all of us is we self-produced this album, nice. Which is something we haven't done before. But we not only did we learn a lot about, producing music, whether it's microphone placement or, whatever the case may be. We also really kind of spent a lot of time just perfecting the songs about as well as they could be. Obviously nothing's ever perfect, but there's one song that we rewrote the bridge maybe 6 different times. And, we really kind of just dove headfirst into what we could do to make the song better.
Did you, when it came to the song, the sun, the moon, and the truth? I mean, there's a deep meaning to this song. I mean, if people sit back and really listen to the lyrics of this, they're going to experience their own interpretation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorites too. And going off the lyrics, I try not to write too vague that it's unrelatable, but I try not to be too obvious that the meaning's, like right in your face and there's no other interpretation. But, we kind of want to leave it open-ended. Like songs like Sins and I Master, they're a little bit more on the nose, but Sun, still has kind of like this poetic, vague, meaning and it allows for interpretation.
Speaking of meanings, how about that album cover, man? I mean, what went into that? Because it wasn't done by the first time. I mean, you guys had to have, crafted that to put it together.
Yeah, so the guy who did the artwork, his name's Daniel Porta. He does a lot of work for, traditional heavy metal bands within the similar style we are. He does work for like Haunt and Unto Others and Silvertown, like a bunch of other bands. But we pretty much, Andrew and I, the drummer, we had kind of brainstormed some ideas about album artwork, and we were thinking about doing it ourselves, but we kind of wanted to let somebody else interpret our vision. Yep. So we typed out all of the song titles and gave brief synopsis of what we were thinking for each song and the track listing. And we kind of just let him have at it. And he pulled a little bit from each song and kind of made like this amalgamation of everything that is in the album. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And yeah, so we kind of let him have his, creative freedom. We tweaked it here and there, but the first iteration is pretty close to what the final album artwork was.
Well, the way it's always been is that the album cover, it goes right along with the music. I mean, I don't know how many times I sat there on my bed just staring at that album cover while listening to songs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big vinyl guy too. So I love being able to like hold the album and look at the artwork and read the lyrics while I'm listening to it. It's a whole experience.
Have we redefined what metal is or great rock is? And the reason why I bring that up is because it seems like that every generation now is calling it their own.
I think there's a lot of really great innovation happening with metal. And, I think it's just because of the accessibility of music nowadays. Mm-hmm. We live in the 21st century and you can hear 100 different bands in an hour. You know what I'm saying? Just whether it's through streaming platforms or whatever. So like all these different bands kind of, I pull influences from, artists I like. A lot of them aren't even metal bands. You know what I'm saying? I listen to like a lot of prog rock. Andrew and I, we listen to a lot of like hip hop. Sal our bass player is a big death metal guy. Chuck's really into like symphonic, like orchestral stuff. So yeah, I mean, we all kind of pull it into different places, and I know this is a long-winded answer to your question, but there's a lot of bands I've seen, and this isn't a judgment, but they kind of recreate the magic that was the 80s and 90s. And but it kind of falls flat because it's been done, it's heard, it's predictable. So some of the metal bands I really like, they take what is familiar and put their own brand on it, and their own trademark. Well,
your trademark, those guitars, because you look at that song, Sins of the Many, and I mean, those twin guitars, man, I mean, you layer them so perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We try to, obviously we're just four dudes, but we try to create as much musical, and composition as possible, because like even Sal, when he's on some of his bass parts, he's not following the rhythm guitar. He's kind of doing his own lines, and he's filling in gaps where the guitars are just chugging.
Long intros. That's the thing that really caught my attention on this one. I mean, you guys have got some long intros. I mean, there for a while, a lot of these bands were doing no intros, and it's like, no, you got to get this song into my heart before you start taking off.
Yeah. We, it's funny, is we tried to stay away from some of the longer intros. I think it kind of just happened naturally. Like World Stone, we've got that minute and a half long intro. Yeah. But it's an album opener. But like with Pray for the Night, we're in it in 30 seconds. We try to, and I know this is kind of a silly adage, but we try to kind of stick to as much as we can to the don't bore us, get to the chorus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well,
which is
that's so interesting that you say that, because in my notes, I said it hit me hard. You didn't waste any time making your presence known.
Yeah.
I mean, you jump on that thing big time on that song.
Yeah. Pray for the Night. Yeah. We really wanted to, and Pray for the Night we chose as the lead single because it kind of is the most accessible, and it's got a little bit of everything. It's got like really heavy guitar riffs in the intro, and it's fast, it's dynamic, it's kind of brooding, emotional, and but the chorus is big in my opinion, and pretty much everybody could sing that, and that was kind of the point, is to make it catchy and make a really good hook. And hopefully we accomplish that. It seems like,
I'm thinking it's on your set list, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it would have to be. But do you have to sit there and argue with each other about the way it's like, okay, do we go 3/4 of the way into the show before we let them have it? Do we do it in the front so we can ignite them? What are you going to do?
So for set list, typically when we're on tour, we play the same set list every night, just so it kind of gets tighter and tighter as we go. But we always try to keep our set list kind of like like peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start off with like we'll start off strong, and then we'll get even stronger, and then we'll kind of bring it back down, in terms of like tempo and feel. And we also try to, same with the album too, we try not to pair songs back to back if they're in the same key, which I know metal specifically has a classic trope of being written in E minor. So that's another thing we kind of take into consideration. Maybe we play a song in D minor here to start, and then we go elsewhere, just so it kind of breaks up the set and doesn't feel like you're listening to one long song, I
do know and one of the things that when you talk about the energy and the tempo and stuff like that, you jump right away. I'm starting to think of the song of Ash, because the song, you don't need a Red Bull with this one, and I mean it really takes off. Yeah,
and that a lot of that energy and as Andrew describes it, it's like a locomotive that just won't stop.
Right?
It just goes the entire time, and that was a big influence from Andrew. He's like, let's just make it go, and that's why he's like constant double bass the whole song. Dang. But yeah, I mean that song goes. That one's a really fun one to play live. It goes over well live.
Yeah, but how do you guys catch your breath after you play a song like that? I mean, you're back there sucking on oxygen right after it?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, it's a learning curve to sing and play at the same time, but it's all about like controlling, your oxygen output, I guess, just so I don't pass out on stage. I know the other guys, they just go full bore the entire time. But as the vocalist, I kind of do have to, conserve my air and energies just so I don't get winded.
Right. With the song World Stone, I mean, you guys fade into that song. And so that caught my attention as a creative person in the way that it's like, okay, I'm walking into this song as it begins.
Yeah. And it was kind of, it's meant to be, obviously the intro is meant to be very atmospheric and just kind of slowly, like you said, walk into it and kind of slowly open the gate, metaphorical gate, if you will, into the album, and just and then it just takes off.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you find yourself going on a more national tour or anything like that, or what do you guys got planned?
Right now, the tentative plan is to do a full U.S. tour sometime next year.
Nice.
We don't have anything set in stone yet. We're kind of planning it still. Cause we still do a lot of stuff ourselves. I'm the main tour booking guy. That's what I do for my job, is I book tours. So yeah, I mean, I do all the tours, and we're planning a full US one. And hopefully, we can get some decent support tours, because, the headline tours are fun, but we really, really need to, reach into a larger audience.
Absolutely. I mean, does that put you on college campuses and do the old Dave Matthews thing?
No, but surprisingly, we've done a lot of college radio interviews. We haven't played an official college campus yet. I mean, I guess you could consider East Lansing a college campus, with Michigan State University, but we haven't. I don't think we've played a true college campus yet.
And on the song, the final song of the album, "Call of the Void," it's one of those songs where the one thing that for me to even hit repeat, I wanted to experience this and take 10 seconds to just breathe, because it's almost like it's like you guys said, "Okay, that was the experience. Let's do it again." Yeah.
And it's funny because that whole song, and I mean, like, the lyrics on that one are pretty on the nose too, but it's a lot about like the cycle of life, life into death and death into life, so on and so forth. Right. But yeah, that one's for me and Andrew as well. That one always gets to me like really emotionally. And it's just something about the song that I don't know. It just really strikes me, Obviously, Andrew and I, like, we all wrote it, but I don't know. It just gets to me every single time.
See, that's what I like about music anyway, is the fact that, as a creator of sound, I mean, it's like you take it so personal, but yet when you're relinquishing it to a live crowd, it's like, okay, it's ours, but it now belongs to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I going off that, I actually heard somebody say that I don't know, I was watching some interview or reading something the other day, but they said, as an artist, when you're creating it, it's yours. But the moment you release it and put it out into the public domain, it's no longer yours.
That's it. That's it. And that's got to play hell on your heart, because people are singing your song, they're taking it with them, they've made it a part of their life and things like that. And it's like, yeah, but. Yeah.
I think it's incredibly gratifying, even if people hate the song.
Yeah,
they still listen to it. You know what I'm saying? And that's ultimately what we want to do is, have people hear what we're creating, and if they like it, that's awesome. If not, tell us why. What do you think? Yep. Like, it's art. It's meant to evoke some emotion, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
And
and what's fascinating when you were telling me that you book the tours and stuff like that, I like this page in music history, because it's during the 80s and 90s, it was all about the record companies and all that kind of stuff, putting you guys out there, and you guys didn't have the control that you have now. I mean you're probably doing your own merch right now, you're doing everything.
Yep.
And that to me puts more passion or more investment in your product.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but there's less hands in the cookie jar.
Yep.
We design all of our own merch. We press all of our own merch. We run our own web store and all that stuff. So like, supporting the band has never been more lucrative in the 21st century. Right. Whereas, talking about the early days of the industry, when you had all these record label executives, taking their cut of the revenue on the way down, and then the band's left with crumbs.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely costs a lot more time, but we can be deliberate with our decisions and what type of merch we're putting out, and we get all of the money, which is huge.
Somebody was telling me last week that you make the music because you need to get the performance. You get the performance to sell the merchandise, and so it's like you need that album first. But it wasn't like the old days where you were trying to sell the album, but you want to sell everything else. Yeah,
I mean, we're essentially traveling T-shirt salesman. You know what I'm saying?
So
it is true with the resurgence of physical media like vinyl and cassettes. There's becoming an increasing way bands can make money off of the music, but a lot of people still stream and listen to music digitally, which is not really. It doesn't pay well.
Right.
But being out on tour and meeting people face to face and establishing those connections, that is the most valuable thing. Because we can meet somebody at a show in St. Louis, Missouri, and they're a fan for life.
Yep.
They show up at every show. They buy the CDs, they buy the vinyl, they buy the new merch drops, whatever. But that's really, the valuable thing is making fans.
Yeah. Where can people go to find out more about the new album and get some of that merchandise we're talking about?
Everything's at tyrantband.com.
That's simple.
Yeah. That's simple. We make it so simple.
All right, man. When you guys head back to the Carolinas, we got to get together and do a face-to-face conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man.
Would love to go back. We've been to North Carolina before.
Yeah. Is it a different type of audience when you travel, let's say, from the South to maybe up around the New York area, and then you head out to California?
Well, we haven't been all the way out to California. I think the furthest west we've been is Albuquerque. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference. A lot of the times when we do these tours, we kind of hit markets outside of like New York City, because in New York City there's a million things to do.
Yeah.
People don't want to go to some metal show on a Thursday evening, but like we played St. Louis, and I think we did like 40 people on a Sunday. It's weird to see these little pockets of like metal fandom. It seems like the South and Southwest is really into metal.
Yeah.
And like the Pacific Northwest. The East Coast is I mean, they like metal, but it doesn't seem as popular.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, and it's helping that these classic rock radio stations are finally embracing new rock, and they're calling it second generation classic rock. I mean, if that's what you have to do is change the title, still, it opens up the door for bands like yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Yeah, I'd love to come back, man. I appreciate it.
You be brilliant today, okay?
Yep. Thank you. You as well, man.